Hello, everybody. Welcome to Creating the Conversation with Me and You Education. Myself, Imran Muhammad, and my mate and my friend, Mr. Ivan Humble. We are very, very honored to have you today. All of you guys, I hope you guys have had an awesome day, a good day. It's been a bit hectic, right? I'm going to share some of my thoughts and reflections of today as well. But I want to invite in straight away my brother, Ivan Humble. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, Jim. How is everybody doing?
Everybody's good. Hopefully, everybody's good. So, how was your day, mate?
Yeah,
what have you been
like
doing?
You said, it's been one of them days. It's just never ending. Do you know what I mean? It's been phone call after phone call, and that's quite tiring itself. Do you know what I mean? When you're on to, and some of the conversations we obviously have with people when we have phone calls is quite deep. So I've had a day of hard conversations, I guess. Do you know what I mean? It's just tired me out a little bit, but apart from that, all good. But you had a bit of adventures today, didn't you? When I rang you earlier,
bit of a adventure.
As if you needed a little bit of air.
No, I did something mad today.
As if you needed a bit of air.
No, I'll be fine. A bit of something mad today. What I done is that I went to work, and then after work, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to ride back home, ride on a bike. Oh my God, that was the worst thing I could do. Do you understand? I come home completely shattered, right? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, we're gonna have a conversation with people, all right? And this is some serious stuff. So I better get myself in the right head and my mindset, and get ready. But I tell you, it was an experience and a half, riding down, because I don't do that usually. Because I'm learning. I learned recently how to ride a bike. You understand? It sounds a bit weird, yeah. Oh, he's an adult and he's done that, but I've just recently learned it. You understand? So, but I think it's a good experience in the last 5-6 weeks. I've done a number of journeys, all right, and I think I think this is good. It doesn't matter. I believe, right? You should, even though you might say you're old enough, you've become too old, you can't learn anymore. I disagree with it. You know what I'm saying? Go for it. Even if you keep on falling, if you keep on getting hurt, one day you're gonna ride. And I've done it. So I feel a bit proud. You know what I'm saying? I've done it. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So it's been a good day. It's been a good day.
And you never had stabilizers either, did you?
Look at you, stabilizers. How dare you? How dare you? The Lord have mercy. Today, guys, today is a bit of a okay, fine. Of course, we just had a bit of a banter. We're just talking, we're discussing about our daily lives. But like last week, we spoke about Christchurch, and we spoke about the sentencing of the perpetrator. This week, we said that we're going to dedicate our day to some very significant individuals. All right, those 22 beautiful lives. All right, that were lost. In Manchester in May 2017. So guys, we want you to stay with us. We want you to reflect with our reflection. Our intention, of course, is to remember them, remember their beautiful lives, remember who they were and what they're significant, and in fact, who had their whole lives in front of them, because the majority of them were kids. And that's the most hardest thing. And Ivor, let me tell you something. I know when it happened, it became very personal. Because I'm through and through, I'm Mancunian, in the sense that I'm from the Greater Manchester area. I work very closely in them areas. I used to walk in and out of that particular foyer nearly every other day. And suddenly, right, this horrific attack takes place, right, by an individual because of his ideology, because of indoctrination, because of whatever he was. All right, this individual straps onto himself these bombs, walks into, for God's sake, it was a concert. People there were for a little bit of fun, bit of joy, laughter, and then lives left in tatters. That's what happened.
I think, just to add into that a little bit about the attack quickly, man, I think maybe he chose that for a reason, because all these other terror attacks in the past we've had, they care us no more. I think is what I'm trying to say is, when anything happened like this, it brings us together. It doesn't divide us like what the extremists want. And I think attacking children it's just that increases that provocation. Do you know what I mean? I
It
think
does.
there's
Truly
maybe
does.
a change of tactics for them, maybe.
It was,
Because
mate. You know
they
what I
don't
mean?
get the
I think
reaction they want.
that I haven't lost you.
No, I'm still here. I thought I'd lost you then.
No, I couldn't hear your voice, but it's all right. You know, we've got the 22.
Yeah.
You know, look at this. These are beautiful human beings, right? Parents, children, right? Those who they've left behind those souls. In fact, the reality of the matter is that they've lost their lives, but all the family members have also lost life because of these individuals. And the truth of the matter is this:
Yeah.
the individual, and let me say this, the individual got convicted, the terrorist himself, the brother of the suicide bomber. He didn't want to face him.
Really.
He did not want to face him.
No, that he wasn't forced to go to that. But it's like after I watched some of the footage that came out afterwards, it doesn't matter whether he was in there or not. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't, justice was served to a point, and now the families have got a little bit of closure, maybe. And their lives are never going to be perfect, but it might help them move on a bit further. Do you know what I mean? I think it should all be about the survivors and their families now. The attacker's got his sentence. He should be forgotten about. But sadly, the press, the media will keep him alive every year. When there's an anniversary, it'll be him they talk about and not so much about the people still trying to rebuild their lives. That's what disappoints me about attacks. We never give enough focus to the people that have been affected, the people rebuilding their lives, the people that are still struggling every day to maybe get out of bed or something. Do you know what I mean? That they've had to change their life because of one person's stupidity that night. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with you. And that's the thing. I think the reality is that as the mainstream, as the media, we have a tendency to sensationalize particular events. And we do talk about the individual who has partook in the horrific act. Now, even what I love about what New Zealand did, the first thing that they done was when the horrific attack took place, they didn't show his face. All right, they pixelated it. On top of that, initially his name didn't even come out. Then even the politicians, the minister.
That was good. I think
that was very good because what they had done was.
We could learn a lot from New Zealand, really, could we? Really, on a lot of things recently. New Zealand or their prime minister seems to have the gift. Do you know what I mean? He seems to know what to do and how to bring proper change. And I think keeping his name out of the media has been good. Do you know what I mean? But there's still people out there that we know in the world we work in that are still glorious kind of people. Do you know what I mean?
And they're going to do that.
Which is sad because
they're going but Ivan, but they're going to do that, especially for the victims. For the victims. And I think the way they've dealt with it has been brilliant. Unlike New Zealand, here in this country, of course, cameras don't go into the courtroom, right? So all we get is statements written by journalists and etc. This is what happened. This is how. The same thing happened here. The family members, even though the perpetrator's brother wasn't there physically, they submitted their statements. They said how they felt. All right, just like what we saw in the case of in Christchurch sentencing of that terrorist. Same thing happened here, and I think it would be amazingly impactful if the public would have got the opportunity, just like New Zealand, to see the raw emotions and feelings of this individual. Because let me be clear, even you saw this, Ivan, last week when we spoke about this, that there were raw feelings. It wasn't all about, just getting pity or, whatever. It was about genuine, real anger, real frustration. No doubt there was people who were forgiving. Forgive. Yeah.
It's just crazy that the survivors and the families are forgotten about so quickly. Do you know what I mean? I know a lot of survivors from various attacks now, and they kind of all say the same kind of thing sometimes. That whenever there's an anniversary, it's still about the attacker. It's not about how they've rebuilt their lives, how they've moved on, and how they've succeeded in some of the challenges they now have to face. You know what I mean, that's what we need to be here to keep that human connection around things. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely. And keeping that in mind, we have, in fact, we're very, very lucky today that we have a very good friend of ours, Figen Murray, who's going to come and speak to us today, hopefully around 10:30. And this is the idea. The idea is an atrocity has taken place. People, very young and beautiful lives have been lost. Murray, of course, Figen is the mother of one of those who had fallen, had died, who've been killed on that particular day. And this young man, of course, she will tell you exactly who this person is, hopefully. And she's here with a mission, and we want to help her with the mission. This is why we have chosen to discuss, to converse, and to bring someone like her onto this particular platform, because we are talking about creating the conversation. And some conversations are difficult. Some conversations are not what people want to hear. All right? Don't talk to us about that. We don't want to know about that. We just want to slam him and get him over and done with. Don't. But someone like Figen, she has taken a slightly different approach to the way she wants to deal with this. And I think in a lot of ways, it's very revolutionary. It's real. Not saying she doesn't have the raw emotions and feelings. She has all of that. But the purpose of her conversation, which of course is nearly exactly the same, because I've not had the opportunity to speak to the parents of the other children or other individuals who passed away, but I've had the opportunity to speak to this particular lady, and she has very clearly stated a number of things which hopefully we are going to pick on today as well. So Ivan, I want to say to you, Manchester is significant to me. Right, when this horrific act took place, of course, we work in schools, we work in different setups and etc. And what do you remember? What in May 2017? What were your reflections? What were your thoughts at that particular time? And if you think about it, you had, recently in a way come out of the whole EDL movement. All right, you had come out of that particular environment. All right, set up. How are you feeling?
The night that happened, I'm not going to lie to you, I was angry. Do you know what I mean? Of course, the anger was there, but I deal with anger differently now than I did before. But the anger was definitely there because, like you said, it was the children that was attacked. Do you know what I mean? It was because it was children. I think that hit a bit deeper inside me than most attacks, because sometimes they're normalized a bit because of the work we do and that, but this one just seemed to be different because it was target the children. As like I said earlier, they needed that fear factor, and they weren't getting the fear factor from how they attacked us before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this was just something about Manchester was different. But although there's a lot of negatives that day, the minute I was the next day, you then started seeing what I call the positivity side of the disaster.
Yes.
And that is how Manchester came together. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
Living where I do, quite away from a big place like that, I had lots of questions. Do you know what I mean? And like I said, I think it was the first podcast we did, how I got my work with me and you was just after the Manchester attack, when I went up to Irfan's Mosque, the Manchester Temple Mosque. So we were up there for a couple of days. And I think in the day before we went to the mosque, we were filming that documentary, and we just walked around the town centre talking to various members of the public not about the attack, because there's enough out about that. I just wanted to see about, I'd caused a lot of division in the country, do you know what I mean, after an attack. So I wanted to see how the community dealt with it. So we were in Manchester. And there's one person I remember speaking to, that was a homeless guy. He was just sitting there. We bought him a coffee and had some food with him. And we were just chatting to him, and we just said, "Where were you when the attack happened?" And he said, "Sat right here, mate. This is my spot," kind of thing. I said, "What do you remember?" He said, "I just remember love. It was crazy. It was people running, but I was seeing people in front of me running together, helping each other." He said, and look, for him to say something like that to me, it touched me, because he was a person who maybe down on his luck, not got much hope or aspirations, but the love he had for Manchester and the people was, it was touching. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's the side people don't see. We only see the bad things or what the papers tell us. We don't get the real stories from the real people. Do you know what I mean? And I think, like I said, that homeless guy, I just can't believe how much pride he had in Manchester. Do you know what I mean? And like when I come up Manchester, the one thing I always remember about Manchester now is a Manchester B. It went everywhere, that the little B logo from Manchester, didn't it? And that's what stuck in my head, that Manchester B thing. It's in all the schools we go in, isn't it?
It is all over there.
And I think that's become a symbol of hope, maybe. That did that. And it's like, you go to Manchester now, you see the B everywhere. Do you know what I mean? It's quite good.
It is what it's done. It has, and let me touch on this. I think it has unified people, right? It has brought out people of all cultures, all backgrounds, all ethnicities, all religions, all dogmas. And through this horrific atrocity, it united everybody. Oh my God, I remember where they had put all the flowers for the memorial. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. You know,
what have they called the Sea of Flowers?
Oh, exactly that. The Sea of Flowers. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that's
oh my God.
Describes it when he talks about it.
And it was exactly that, mate. You know what I mean? It was exactly that. And like this gentleman, right? This homeless gentleman had said to you, "I remember the love." Oh my God, it was exactly that. It was the love. Every single person, you know, had, you know, I remember this. I was there myself. You know, tears in the eyes. We had, now see, a lot of you don't know about this. We had scholars, imams, right? We had priests, we had rabbis that had come from all around the country to stand in solidarity, right?
Yeah, and we do that. They did that march into the square, didn't they? All the imams and that.
They did.
Yeah,
and it was powerful.
I remember seeing a video of that.
Yeah, it was powerful.
Yeah,
because,
powerful.
Yeah, it was powerful because the thing is, usually people say, "Oh, hey, 1 minute, this terrorist was a Muslim, right? Where's the Muslim community? Why are they not coming out? Why are they not saying anything?" I'm like, 1 minute. Because the mainstream. Let me say this. You know, if the mainstream media is not ready to, right, share that with you, what can we do? We will come out, we'll stand beside you, because it's not your loss, it's our loss. The Quran clearly states, isn't it? The taking of one life is like the taking of the lives of all of humanity. No, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter what philosophy, it doesn't matter. Life is significant, right? And I think that was a very powerful gesture, all right, by individuals of all faiths and no faiths to stand together. The Sea of Flower. Oh my God, Ivan, it was unbelievable, mate.
I know. I remember seeing. Well, I know how passionate Irfan talks about it when we do the presentations, because he's Manchester like you, and do you know what I mean? He loves it, and he's proper passionate. The way he describes that Sea of Flowers is emotional for him, because he was up there with all the people doing a talk, weren't he, in front of all the cameras.
That's right.
I remember him telling me that. He said that feeling when you looked out and you see not just the flowers, because they went for quite a distance as well, but the people just went for people as far as you could see. Do you know what I mean? That's right. And that's always the same after any attack. That positivity, everybody comes together, but it's a bit like the COVID one where we all come together, and then after a little while we kind of forget still. Do you know what I mean? we can never keep this passion and this united front up for long term. It just seems to be after any attack, it doesn't. Maybe in Manchester it does, but the rest of the country doesn't stay together like that.
No, but see, that's what matters, doesn't it? Because we have a tendency within this country to blame someone, right? If we start to reflect, it's not someone else's problem; it's all of our problem, right? Just because someone looks different. Look, we got this whole thing about BLM at the moment in time, yeah? Black Lives Matters. Now, thank God Almighty, majority of the community have stood up, regardless of what shade of color they are, regardless of what religion they are, faith they are, doesn't matter. They stood up. But there is still a minority of people, right, who are still banging on about, it's about I don't know how many lives matters and this and matters. Listen, at this moment in time, there's one house that's burning, right? That house needs water, right? Your house is not burning. Help it to take out the fire, mate. And talking about unification, I've just put an image up of this beautiful lady, Gulnad Banu Khan Qadri. She, on the day, in fact, when the memorial took place, when people from all different backgrounds, all different cultures came together, all right, to show solidarity, to say, listen, even though this individual was a Muslim, even though this person had claimed he did this because of his ideology or whatever it was, we reject this fully and completely. And she read a beautiful poem, and I'm gonna hopefully, we get an opportunity to put this up on our website as well. But at the same time, I'm going to ask people to go to the YouTube and pull her name in and listen to her words. It's very powerful. What she does in this poem, and I'm going to share this, Ivan, and because I want your reflections on it as well, that what she says is very powerful. She speaks about who she is as a Mancunian. She speaks about, as a mother, she doesn't only care for her own 2-3 children, but she also cares for every other child, regardless of who they are, regardless of skin color, regardless of religion, doesn't matter. A mom is a mom. A mom is a mom, right? And a mom will look after any child, doesn't matter who it is, okay? And talking about moms, we got one mom coming up in a few moments, Figen Murray. She's going to come up and she's going to speak to us in a short while. Hopefully, we got about 8-9 minutes in about 8 or 9 minutes, she's going to be with us live. Hopefully, she's going to be here. Now, at the same time, of course, Gulnad Banu goes into detail. She speaks about, what unites us as a people. Manchester itself as a city did that. Now, she speaks about herself. She goes, what I love, it might sound, a bit flippant of a statement, but the truth it is, I like fish and chips. I'm a woman who likes the Lancashire tart. I'm a woman who likes, she starts speaking about those things which were common, which were normal, which were British, which were English, which were Mancunian. Do you understand? Now, and people, I've got to say, people reacted towards that. Like, really? You with that hijab on? With that Union Jack on? What's wrong with you? But I think it was a very powerful symbol. What's your thoughts on that, Ivan?
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was powerful. I've heard that poem so many times. Like I said, it's not just about her, it's about Manchester's history as well. She names football players and poets and that, and then she talks about the different foods. It was really a positive thing to come out of something. Now, there's a lot of things, we get asked a lot of questions. Should she have done that at that time? She probably, if I'm honest, she didn't need to do that or say any of that stuff. But sometimes people need to see things with their own eyes. And I think her standing up there, doing that talk, even when the Union Jack hijab, was quite powerful, because a lot of people don't realise that Muslims are us. Do you know what I mean? They think they're totally different. But listening to that, it does sort of break down a few barriers.
No, it truly does.
And I think, to be fair, and you can probably add a bit more to this, she got criticised as well as praised up, didn't she, again? For doing a positive thing, she took a bit of criticism, not just from people on my old mindset, the far right and the angry and frustrated people. It was the Muslim community as well, wasn't it? Do you know what I mean? So
it was.
Sometimes doing our job is hard. When you do something that you think right, there's always going to be somebody you think is wrong, which is sad because it took a lot of guts to stand up there in front of all them people, the world's press, to say that. Do you know what I mean? So top marks to her. Do you know what I mean?
And got to give it to, and like you
it's like I
said, even the Muslim community,
it is.
Even the Muslim community, right? We're after her. Now we're not saying, and let me share this with you.
Yeah.
Where did they go after her? On Twitter. Because
Yeah.
no one could see their faces. No one knows who they are. Anonymous. And because of that, they can say whatever they want. Now, yeah.
And that's what caused the division online then. Because people see that and then they think that Ghana is fake now. She's not real. She's just saying it for the... But she's passionate about it. That's her message. Do you know what I mean?
It is.
That little bit of denial feels quite a bit division. Even in my past, when me and Manwad did that march together when I was in the EDL, I took a lot of praise. He took the negativity for it.
Yeah, he got stuff for it.
We must remember that nobody's one big happy family. There's differences in all communities. Do you know what I mean? And so not everybody thinks the same.
So they criticized him. So they criticized him because he walked with an EDL member. Is that the reason?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the stuff they were calling him, I should imagine Guna got called it as well. Things that if I'd have said as a white guy, there'd have been action took against me. Do you know what I mean? If I called you an Uncle Tom or a house Muslim or something like that, I wouldn't be seen very good if I said that to you, Imran. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But when you see Muslims calling Muslims that, it's the same a bit with the Black Lives Matters now. You see black people being quite racist to each other now, calling each other certain words. Do you know what I mean? Because they don't agree with each other. It's that negativity that fuels a lot of this division.
No, but Ivan, look, I want to say something. I want to say something before we bring on Figen, our guest. And what I want to say is, look, education. We talk about education all the time, but I can understand why they said what they said to her, especially wearing the hijab as a Union Jack. And if you look into the history of the Union Jack, it's not all nice. Yeah. It's complicated, right? It's difficult. It's oh my gosh, too much baggage. It's colonialism, imperialism. That's what it is. So for me, I get what they're saying, but the problem is that when someone is trying to do something good, stand beside them. Don't push them down, pull them down. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? They want to help people, not destroy or harm people. And in fact, keeping that in mind, in a few moments, I'm going to call upon our friend Figen Murray, who's trying to do exactly that. Right? It's about looking at this atrocity, looking at what has happened, and it's her loss, her personal loss as well. We believe in a collective loss of these 22 individuals that passed away, died in that particular concert, mate, right, in 2017. But the truth of the matter is, this is personal to her. But she has chosen, I'm going to talk about this, she has chosen to take a certain step. Wow. That takes a certain type of person. And it takes a certain type of people who discuss and converse in this particular manner. All right? So, Ivan, I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to say, how do you feel that this guy, right, at least the guy in Christchurch, he came and he at least listened to the, the families, and heard their statement. This guy didn't even turn up.
Yeah, I'm disappointed at that because I think he should have been made to listen to the upset and hurt that they'd caused. Because as the public, we're not seeing any remorse or anything, are we? Do you know what I mean? We're not seeing nothing. So when you don't see anything, we make our own story up in our head, what's going on. Do you know what I mean? And that's what's happened at the minute, I think. We only get to see what the newspapers want to tell us. Yeah. We never get to know everything. Do you know what I mean? I think sometimes after an attack, the newspapers, some of the journalists think that they're the police. They have to investigate it. Do you know what I mean? Because they throw out all this other stuff out that some of it probably isn't relevant to anything, but it could cause a bit of division. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think there should be a period where, of course, we report it when it happens, but then ease off the reporting until they get some facts in before different papers put out their opinions, and you get that clash and that gaps in stories where people will capitalize on that and exploit that gap.
And that's what it is. It is exploitation, and it is making money. That's the idea behind this. All right. And sadly, and guys, I'm going to bring on our friend, an activist, a person who has genuinely, God bless her, not only her, and I know that this is what she wants. She wants every person, every individual, every soul to stand beside what? Justice. But justice of what? Of reality of people, reality of the engagement, reality of what happened in Manchester, and do something proactive from that, right? So I'm going to call upon...
It's something that will bring change. Do you know what I mean?
It will do. It will do. Definitely it will do. So I'm going to... Is there going to be a applause? Shall we call upon Figen Murray? Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm here.
Hello, good evening to you. Are you well?
I'm good, yeah, thank you.
But thank you very, very much for, accepting our invitation and coming today. We are very, very grateful that you turned up and you said, you know what? You guys are mad. You're telling me to come at 10:30 in the evening. I'm supposed to be sleeping. And how dare you do this? All right.
Yeah. I have to say, I was listening obviously to what you guys just said, and I actually have a totally different opinion to the guy not coming up from the basement up into the dock to listen to the witness impact statements. I was one of the mums who read out her statement, and I was, I think, number 4, and 3 people before me went, and they all really, really cried and sobbed, and they broke their hearts. And I'm glad he wasn't there and saw them like that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want him to have the satisfaction that he actually heard people and see that. So I was personally really happy that he wasn't there. Because the people that mattered, the journalists who will take out what they've experienced in court, the police, the judge, the legal team, they were the important ones to hear it. And they were all there, they listened,
Powerful. See, I never thought about it like that. And I think you're right. No, I agree with you, because I think when we were watching what we watched the week before with the individual who had come up, he did listen. Oh my God, these emotions were raw. They were in his face.
Yeah.
All right. He was the audience and he didn't flinch.
He didn't
No
care.
emotion. He didn't care. That's you're right. Yeah. And I think you're right. You are right. And I think that's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Good that he didn't.
Yeah.
Right. We're not going to give him satisfaction.
Yeah.
All right. To feel that, you've done some harm to us. All right. And that's brilliant. I've got to give it to you. I've got to see that different side. So, Figen, a heavy thing has happened. Difficult thing has happened.
Yeah.
But finally, sentencing has been done. 55 years, 24 life sentences have been given out to this individual. This person is not getting out. This person is going to finish within the 4 walls of a prison. That's a reality. What were your own sentiments, your own feelings, and how did you feel that the rest of the families and the parents felt at that time?
Again, there was, I think, in the general public and probably within some of the families, probably a bit of anger that he didn't get life properly and that it was limited to 55 years. But again, I see that differently because the judge explained very clearly that under the British legal system, that's all he can give. And at the end of the day, he gave one of the longest sentences ever given in this country.
That's right.
So how much fairer can it be? And like you said, he's not going to come out of prison. And well, what else can be done? Death penalty? We are not that uncivilized. This is a civilized country. You can't go for that. It's I saw comments like that on Twitter. It's nonsense. 55 years is okay.
Yeah, and fair enough, because I think within this country, that is one of the largest and the longest given. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, if, like for example, what happened, I'm keep on comparing it with New Zealand because this case has happened at the same time.
Yeah.
But that's the opposite side. That's a white supremacist, and you have an Islamist here. That's what it is. Now, in that country, the same thing. There were people who had said, right? They had said that you should be given a death sentence. You should not, you know, you've been given life without parole, all right, within prison, etc. These are the laws within that country. In a lot of ways, that in itself is merciful. I think there's a sense of mercy. And look, I work in them settings, and trust me, even if someone did a year, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20, 40, whatever they are, that's not easy.
No.
It's not easy. You know, continuously, if that person has even an atom amount of humanity, not a single moment of that person's life internally will pass in a state of immense satisfaction. It isn't. It's going to make them think today, tomorrow, day after. They're going to say, oh my God, what the hell did I do? I can't believe it that these hands committed that crime. Do you understand? This is reality. Obviously, a lot of people don't know this side. We see what's in the newspapers, right? But we don't talk about the reality of the situation. Yes, go for it.
I suppose if you think about it, if we did have the death penalty, he would have got martyrdom. It's what they're after. So I think, I think him spending 5 years in prison is probably the best thing you could ask for. Really, the death penalty would have given what he wanted. I think. I'm just looking at a different angle, but you did something that I kind of admire as well. You forgive him, didn't you, Figen?
Yeah.
You actually forgave a baby, didn't you?
Wow.
Yeah, I forgave.
Could you explain that a little bit more? I kind of understand it, but for the viewers to understand that, how could you sort of forgive somebody that took something so precious away from you? Do you know what I mean? I think if I'm honest, I'd have problems with that myself. I don't think I could ever forgive him.
A lot of people do have problems with it, but you see, obviously he killed my son, the guy who did the arena attack, and I was completely gutted. I'm distraught about it, obviously, all the time. But about 3 days after the attack, I happened to see the front page of a newspaper somebody put on my dining room table, and I froze because I was shocked at the young age of this guy who did the arena. And I thought, my goodness, you're just a foolish young boy. Why would you do that? Why on earth would you throw your life away and that of our loved ones? And again, I knew that his brother was younger even. So when I saw him in court and the brief moments we locked eyes on a couple of occasions, I again looked at him thinking, gee, you're so young. You are so young. What do you know of life? You know, you couldn't have made that decision in a sensible, rational way because you didn't understand what you were doing. And really, that is the reason why I have no problem forgiving them, because I feel that I think both of them were just pawns in a bigger game. And I think the bigger game is the organizations behind them, because none of those people who organize these awful ideologies sent their own children or grandchildren with suicide bombs into places. They radicalize other people and send them instead.
And they do. And I think, Figen, you just hit it. You just hit the nail on the head. And that I think as a society, as a community, we're not ready to acknowledge that. We're not ready to acknowledge that there is a bigger picture to this. These individuals, may that be from the far right, may that be from the Islamists, may that be from the far left, may that be whichever extreme it may be from, right? These are, let me share something with you. I've come across so many working class young men, right? From the white community, from the black community, from the Asian community, all right, who are the basic tools of others. They are used and abused and then simply thrown away. I came across a young man, all right? He was one of those individuals who had who went into a supermarket and tried to chop or harm or hurt a Sikh gentleman, right? Now, this young man stayed in prison for a short period of time. Oh, sorry, he's in prison at the moment, but he stayed in a certain setting where we got the opportunity to work with this young man. Now, what he had committed was horrific, right? He was ready to mutilate. In fact, he had mutilated. Sorry to be graphic. One of the arms of this Sikh gentleman. He was a doctor. Now, we got because when you behind bars, a lot of people don't know what the real reality is, what the story is. So we got to know this guy a little bit. Oh my God, let me share something with you. This might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to be straight. The organization that had radicalized him, right, didn't really care who he was. We found out this guy's a normal young lad, very intelligent, okay? He, working class. He had some aspirations to become, I don't know what he wanted to become in his life, doing college or university, right? Suddenly started to get radicalized, which is a form of grooming, okay?
Of course.
Of course it is a form of grooming, taking advantage of the vulnerable. And he was one of them. He committed a crime. Now he's doing the time, and his family, and what are they doing? Sitting back and laughing. Don't give a damn. So you're right. It is a larger picture. And I think that what you've just stated is crucial. Very important to see the bigger picture.
It's
but our problem
important.
is, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring in something else, Figen, and I think you are an individual that is very proactive individual. You know, the way you present yourself, the way you talk about things, and etc. But I also know that you're not doing this just for yourself.
No, absolutely not. No.
Yeah, you have your desire is something else. Do you want to share that with me, please?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've looked into this because I am a person who tends to, from my professional background, always look at when something happens, even to me, I look at the bigger picture, and I
You come from a therapeutical background, yes?
That's right, yeah. And that really, you always encourage people to look at the bigger picture. And I also looked at my responsibility in all of this because, we are part of this society. And I think, to me, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a way of safety for venues, not just big venues like the arena, but really I thought about, well, actually security isn't really thought through in this country properly after the attack, because you can go anywhere in theaters and cinemas and, there's nothing. And
Wow.
when I looked further into the legal side of it and the government side of it, I found that there is a document called the contest document.
Yes.
And in that document, it says clearly that the government recommends that venues take responsibility for their customers.
So just a recommendation.
It's only a recommendation. And to me, that is no longer acceptable because times have changed, and I feel that we need to catch up with terrorism, because I feel terrorists are always 1 or 2 steps ahead of us.
Obviously.
And their methods have changed, the methodology has changed, the way they apply terrorism in this country and all across Europe and the world, it is different now. So we need to change things.
So what are you proposing? What are you saying that needs to be what needs to be done?
Right. It's a very simple thing I'm asking for. It's called Martin's Law. I set up. I mean, it's funny you called me an activist. I'm just Martin's mum, but actually I am an activist. Yes,
you're an activist.
So it's just a strange
thank you for accepting that. No, Figen, please. Thank you for accepting that, because the thing is, I see every single parent, every single brother and sister, uncle, auntie of the 22 individuals that have died as activists. I see them as people upright, who are ready not to put themselves down, not to just be people of victimization, but they say, listen, we're going to start charities. We're going to become more proactive like yourself. You're activists. And that's what we need.
Yeah. I just didn't think at the age of 59 I would do that.
Hey, the
But
Lord have mercy.
so Martin's Law is basically a piece of legislation I'd like the government to implement that should be just as important as health and safety and fire safety. So when you think about any venue, restaurant, pub, club, cinema,
Yes.
there's legislation that lays down how many toilets you have to have, how hot the food has to be in the canteen, or how hot the popcorn has to be, etc., etc. Yet there is nothing about safety or security, and I feel that needs to change.
It
So
does.
Martin's Law is 5 steps. Step number 1 is that you get the majority of your staff to do the 45-minute free of charge ACT e-learning package online. It's an online program, and it can be part of an induction when you start a new job, and it teaches you about your environment, how to recognize if there's a package that's suspicious, what to do if you see somebody acting weird, what you do, how would you behave in a terrorist attack. It explains all of that. It teaches you as a private person, so it's useful for any of us to do it.
Of course.
So
What you've just said, all right,
Yeah.
shouldn't that be common sense as well?
well,
Now, sad thing is, and it isn't. That's what you're saying it, and that's I
Yeah.
get it. Why you're saying this? You're saying,
yeah, but
Mom,
it is common sense. But you see, I did the program, and I, for instance, learned from it that if you see a suspicious package, you shouldn't just take your phone out and say, I'm going to ring the police, because you could accidentally detonate it
Yeah.
if it's a bomb in there. So I didn't know that. So that's my learning from it, one of the many learnings. So I recommend that everybody does that. But that was point number 1, the free learning, free training. Point number 2 would be that every organization, every establishment that has customers does a risk assessment for vulnerabilities in terms of terrorism, that they go around the building and check where is the vulnerabilities. Because when you think of London in Borough Market, people just walked around and walked into cafes and attacked people randomly.
That's right.
So people need to know where the vulnerable areas are in their building. As soon as they are identified, it takes me to point number 3. Any identified problem areas, mitigate them, deal with them, sort them out. So if a restaurant, for instance, the back door is a bit sticky and stiff, change the lock, or sort the door out, so that if there is an attacker coming in through the front door, you can take your customers and staff quickly out the back door. So it's that kind of thing. So that's number 3. Number 4 is that every organization or establishment has a written down terrorism action plan, a solid one in place specific to that venue. And number 5 is more for bigger venues, not small restaurants, cafes, or whatever, but it's more for bigger establishments that have hundreds and hundreds of people going in. And that is, if necessary, work with the local government. So, for instance, at a gig, at a big arena, at a football event, etc., where thousands of people go in and out, that you work with a local authority, and they may do simple things like the town could, the council could change the timing of the traffic lights, for instance, at the beginning of an event and the back of the event, so at the end, so that traffic moves in and out quickly and people don't assemble too much and have to be in queues, so that people just the people just flow through quicker. And they're simple things. It's not, I was criticized initially about, gosh, you're going to make us bankrupt and you're going to form queues outside and that's going to be a risk. They can all be avoided. There are ways around it, and as for the expense, I made a point even to buy a handheld metal detector just to prove that it's not expensive to have security. It cost me about £25, and if
even now,
tells, if somebody tells me they can't afford it, I'll buy it for them.
The Lord have mercy. No, but I think you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
When once it's black and white and it becomes legislation,
Yeah.
or becomes Martin law,
Yeah.
Hopefully, when that takes place, I think then we can really say that these places are genuinely secure, especially around this issue. And I like
Yeah.
this 5 steps, free training around awareness of what's around, of
Yeah.
course, risk assessment of the place itself, the venue, deal with whatever that is, the
Yeah.
vulnerable places,
Yeah.
the vulnerable aspects and areas in that once they've been identified. Every organization has to, what did you say?
Have a terrorism action plan.
Has a clear terrorist written action plan, and for the bigger venues, all right, they can work with local authorities and
Yeah.
all the other
Yeah.
systems in place. And I think you're right, and keeping in mind MEN and what happened in 2017, a
Yeah.
lot of that could have been sorted or dealt with if these particular key points were kept in mind. And I think
But I can't comment about the MEN before, because we are having a public inquiry. So hopefully, whatever comes out of that, recommendations will be made. But I think for the future, I think if Martin's Law does become a reality, however they call it, hopefully you'll never stop terrorist attacks, but hopefully it'll limit the amount of
yes,
opportunities, and that's one of the main aims of it.
and that is the aim, and I pray that may the Lord Almighty give you strength. I'm a person of faith, so
Thank you.
of course I'm a Muslim, so I'm going to say this, that he gives you strength to make sure that this is implemented in whatever form it takes ultimately when
Yeah.
it gets to that particular point. But because there is someone like yourself and other parents, right, who are proactive enough, who want to do something about it and create the change, and you're right, until something doesn't become law in this country, people are lazy.
Yeah.
Organizations are lazy, and they're not going to follow through, and they're not going to take steps in protecting those people that are using that particular venue or that place. So I hope and I pray that you've mentioned this. I know there's a number of platforms you talk about this repeatedly again and again, and hopefully that when we also go complete live and etc., that we will back you, we will help you, will support you
Thank you.
with this particular cause, because as an organization, that's what it's about. It's being proactive and doing something which is profound, which is long lasting. Hopefully it's not only words but real work. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I want to bring something else in, unless Ivan wants to say something to you.
No, I just want to say you've made some really valid points, Figen. The one thing that sticks out to me is I believe that there was no recommendation for security as such. Do you know what I mean?
No.
But they tell you how many fire doors you have to have.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to make security a big thing like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just, especially
It's shocking,
in
isn't
2020,
I know.
that's not law already. Especially after all the attacks we've had before and stuff. And
Yeah.
you thought that would just be, especially for a nightclub or an arena, surely there had to be recommendations, or you have to have security. Do you know what I mean? Not that as long as they're safe, you're all right kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it's mind-boggling that in 2020 that it's still like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'd say.
And that's what I don't want anymore.
Away. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And you see, it'll hopefully.
It's just hard to.
Yeah, hopefully Martin's Law will be as common as, people initially moaned about wearing seatbelts, and now everybody wears seatbelts. And I want that to be, after the initial resistance, I want safety to be a standard thing.
Yeah, let me ask you this: wouldn't it give more speed, more gravitas if others also engage with this? Or maybe not this, but for example, if the other parents got involved or the families got involved. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, actually, it's working quite well at the moment, because I'm in negotiation with the government, and we're in lockdown, but I still managed to have a Zoom meeting with the security minister and his people, and they're fully on board with it. And obviously lockdown slowed Martin's Law down, but it's, I've had a conversation with the minister last week, and he said we're soon going to restart it all. And once it restarts, it'll gain momentum, so it's happening. And I did actually say to the minister, I'm only 5 foot, but I'm going to be buzzing around your head like an irritating fly. And he knows that.
I love that. The Mancunian bee. That's what it is. The Mancunian bee.
Yeah.
That's what it is. The Lord Almighty. She said it. She said it. I wanna bring something in before we end in a short while. Is that Figen, there's something that has bothered you a little, and I want you to speak about, because we spoke about it ourselves, right? And especially around other parents as well of the deceased. Would you like to share?
Yeah, I'm doing an awful lot of work about Martin's Law because that's what I focus on. So as a family, we never set up a charity or a foundation. It just never came about somehow. And then I got the thing about Martin's Law. The problem with that is I need to remind the public constantly and keep it on the agenda, to put a little bit of pressure onto the government. And without going very public, I can't do that. The drawback with that is that the papers, unfortunately, and they're only doing their job, I guess, but they are showing my face, they're showing Martin's face quite often in all across all media outlets. And it's a little bit embarrassing. I know why they're doing it, but I don't want the other families to think that Martin is the most important victim and I'm the most
You're right.
important family, because that's not the case. It's just a means to an end to try and get this law in place, But I deeply, deeply care about every single person who died. I deeply, deeply care about every family who has lost somebody. I feel their pain. I have such compassion for them. And I just would hate for anyone to think that Martin has preferred treatment, it's preferential treatment. It's not my intention at all. So, that's really all I'm hoping for, that the papers and the TV companies sort of are a little bit sensitive around that, really.
And they need to be. And I think for
Yeah,
you to share that is highly important. That every single individual that is on this screen at the moment, these are significant human beings, significant to
absolutely.
not only the families, the brothers and sisters, the parents, the grandparents, the uncle aunties, but they have become significant to us.
Yeah.
Right. I remember, as an organization, we were invited to speak about, to give financial support and help. They were trying to pass a bill in Brussels in the similar time, and they invited the organization representation to discuss that. And I personally went myself, and I made it very clear from my perspective. I go, look, you got to understand that the victims, no doubt, are the ones that have fallen, but at the same time, their families, their friends, they're people that love them, that care for them, their colleagues, they, students that they studied with, right? People that they chilled with, relaxed with, they have also been impacted. They are also victims of this, right?
Absolutely.
And I think for you to say, and I hope and I pray that the rest of the families, the rest of the people also, fall into that. And I hopefully they do. I don't know them. It would be brilliant to have them on this particular platform. We invite them, and I hope they will come on and also share their stories and their own reflections as well as, of course, you have done. In my final thoughts and reflection, I'm going to say I am humbled by your presence. I am grateful that you have come today. I pray that with your steadfastness, with your proactiveness, all right, you get what you want. Of course, that can happen alone. It has to be a force. It has to be people that support you. So from our perspective of me and you, education, we are very, very thankful that you came today and you shared and spoke to us about Martin Law and what you want for the future and the betterment of this community. Ivan, to you, mate.
I'm just going to thank you again, Figen. Do you know what I mean? We shared the stage before at Blackburn College, so we know a little bit about the others. But I think the way you come across today, nobody will think it's all about you. Do you know what I mean? It's just the way the media manipulates stories for their own gain. Do you know what I mean? And I think the way you've come across today, everybody should be proud of you. Do you know what I mean? See, what you're doing isn't just for Martin; it's for everybody. I think that's what people need to
It's
take
for the
away
whole
from this.
nation. It's for the whole nation. I want
It's for everybody.
everybody
Do you know
to
what I
be
mean?
safe. Yeah.
It is literally for everybody, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That law, if it comes into effect, change things, and it will hopefully improve security and safety for a lot of people. So
Yeah.
I hope when people watch this, they take that message away that just because the media portrays something a certain way, look at the bigger picture. Figen's old words there.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always talk about the bigger picture all the time because looking at my past, I had a blinkered view. It wasn't until I reached out and spoke to other people, and that commonality sort of thing is so important nowadays. But it's the biggest overlooked thing we have is that connection, that commonality. Do you know what I mean? We just
Absolutely.
for some reason we'd rather attack our differences and then work on the positives. Do you know what I mean? That's just sad part of
Totally.
society we live in
Yeah.
today.
I agree. We need to all stop being frightened of each other's differences and embrace them as enrichment. That's so crucial.
And I think that's the same what me and Imran do with our conversations. We have a lot of difficult conversations, but they need to be had because if somebody with a balanced opinion is not giving them attention and a voice, there's lots of rabbit holes on the internet and social media where they can easily slip down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we have to have these open and honest conversations. Do you know what I mean? However hard they are.
Yeah. Totally.
Back to you, man.
I agree with you. Thank you very much for that. Figen, thank you very much for coming on
Thank
today.
you.
God bless you for that. And thank you, Ivan. You have a nice one as well, mate.
No.
Hopefully, Figen,
thank you as well.
hopefully, once we progress with Martin's Law and other activities that you're doing, I hope you will come back to us. Give us a bit of a update of what's going on throughout whatever's taking place, whatever's happening, whatever's taking place at that particular time. Give us a shout. We are ready to scream with you. Trust us.
Tell people to help me scream about it on Twitter.
We need change. We need now. That's what's gonna happen. And thank you guys.
Thank you
God
so
bless you.
much. Thank you.
Look after yourself. No, thank you very much. And
Thank
look
you.
after yourself. And our hearts and our reflections and our prayers go to all of the family members, all of the friends who have lost these beautiful souls. God bless you, and God bless
you.
every other human being. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, and see you next week.
Bye.